Okay, so this video here is going to be my cancer story video. I was kind of inspired to do this video because a fellow YouTuber that I'm following by the name of Pretty P. Collins had just posted a video about her cancer scare, so I wanted to share my story with you guys. Okay, so my whole journey started when I was 16. I wasn't diagnosed at 16, but my breast health issues started at 16. At 16, I had found a lump in my breast, and I really didn't think much of it because I was so young. Although I just had an aunt that had passed away due to complications of breast cancer, I really didn't think much of it because I just felt like I was too young to actually have cancer. So I didn't tell my mother about the lump that I found actually until it was like it wasn't visually noticeable, because I don't know if you guys can tell, but I kind of have like a bigger bust than normal. My bra size is a 34 double D, and at that time I believe I was about a 34C. Yeah, like a 34C going into a D or whatever. And I didn't tell my mother about it because it wasn't giving me any problems or whatever. But as the lump grew, it began to hurt. So that's when I first came to my mother and told her, like, Mom, found the lump and it's getting kind of big and it's starting to actually be painful. So she took me to a doctor, and I was referred to a specialist. And when I went to the specialist, he gave me a breast exam, and then he scheduled me for a biopsy. But because I was so young, my breast tissue was very dense, and the lump itself was very dense. So he wasn't really able to penetrate it with the is it utensils? Whatever, utensils, tools, surgical tools they had. His instruments, his biopsy instruments couldn't penetrate it because the lump that was in my breast was so thick. So, because they couldn't actually take a tissue sample of it, he just automatically scheduled me for a lumpectomy. And the lump was kind of big that they removed. I didn't actually see it, but he told me when he felt it that the lump was very big, and I should have came in to get it looked at. So I was scheduled for a lumpectomy of few weeks, like at least 2 weeks after that. I went and got a lumpectomy. So they took the tissue out, and when I came in for my follow-up appointment, they just explained to me what the tissue looked like, and he said that most likely it wasn't cancer. I can't remember if they actually tested for cancer or not because I was so young, but I have a condition called fibrocystic breast condition. So I have naturally lumpy breasts, like my breasts that don't look lumpy, and if you were to grab them, they don't feel lumpy. But to a physician, and me knowing my body, if I feel my breasts, I could feel the different lumps in the area of my breasts. And they're like round, firm, rubbery lumps, and I have them in both breasts. It's more in the left side than it is the right. So the lumps are not usually painful, but like before I get my period, sometimes like a week or two before, they would get tender or sore, and I would just have to take like an Advil or something for the pain. So that was that story when I was 16. So about when I was 20 years old, it happened again. And I didn't feel like it was necessary to go to the doctor right off the bat, because I'm just like, yeah, it's the same thing from before. If it gets too big to where I'm having issues, then I'll go to the doctor and he could just remove it, and I was just going to go through life like not really gonna take any of these lumps too serious because of the condition that I have. So at that time, I didn't have medical insurance because I was working at a bank, but I wasn't working full-time hours, so I couldn't get, I wasn't eligible for health insurance because I wasn't a full-time employee, and then I wasn't eligible for free state health insurance because I was a single person, didn't have any kids, and my income was higher than the recommended amount, so I couldn't get state insurance either. So that's really what held me back from going to the doctor about my issue. So I was telling my mother that I was having problems and I didn't want to go to the hospital and go through seeing the doctors and incur all of these medical bills, and including the surgery. So I was like, I'm gonna just wait until I either get more hours at work, or basically that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for a full-time position to open up where I can have insurance, and then I can go to the doctor and get everything checked out and have my surgery and then just go about my life. So the lump started hurting a lot. Like, it wouldn't just be like before my period, like for me to lay on my chest, it was a discomfort. And that was something new because when I had the last one, it wasn't that same issue. But the lump that I had this time was even bigger than the one that I had last time. And like I said, I'm top heavy, so the lumps weren't visually noticeable, but it was a pain for me and just uncomfortable. So my mother, she was calling around to different places, and she ended up finding like this free type of clinic thing. It's like a free clinic, and she had me go there and see a doctor, and she told him about my previous issue, how I had to get a lumpectomy before, and he's also a breast. Let me see, because I have it up on my computer. He is a breast surgeon and a trauma surgeon. So, when I went in for a consultation, not a consultation, but when I went in and he checked me out, he said that I had a very large mass, and that he would recommend me getting it removed because of the discomfort. And I told him, like, it wouldn't be, I was like, it's not cancer or anything because I have fibrocystic breast. This is an issue that I had before. I just need a lumpectomy. So the free clinic enrolled me in a grant program because of my past issue. And that grant program gave me insurance even though my income was higher than, well, it gave me Medicaid. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, Medicaid insurance, even though I was financially unqualified for it. So I went and got the lumpectomy done about, it wasn't that long, probably about 2 or 3 weeks. I went and got the lumpectomy done. It was at a hospital called Mount Sinai in Hartford, Connecticut. So I went and got the lumpectomy done, and I still wasn't in a rush to go to my follow-up appointment. I'm like, I have to work. Didn't really want to take any extra days off to go to the doctor, and I felt like it wasn't no rush to go. Like, it wasn't of urgency to go. So when I finally went, because my doctor office, he kept calling, like, oh, Dr. Christie wants you to come in, you missed your follow-up appointment, da-da-da. So when I went to that appointment, and he came in the room, like, I guess he didn't read my chart before he came in, so he came in the room, like, we talked. He was like, oh, you had your surgery, how's your scars doing? I'm going to check them out. So I was like, oh, I'm healing up fine, da-da-da. So he opened my chart, and he slams it closed, and he screamed out. He was like, shit. So, like, anytime the doctor open your chart and scream shit, it's like something bad. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what's going on? He was like, oh, how did you get here? I was like, I drove. And I guess because I drove, he didn't want to say, oh, you have cancer. He was like, oh, we just found a tumor, so you're gonna need another surgery because we have to go in and make the margin bigger to make sure we got everything out. So me still being like this airhead, I'm like, okay, I have a tumor, it's nothing, it was removed. They just have to take more of the breast tissue around where the tumor was to make sure it doesn't come back. So when I went home, my mother asked me like what happened at the doctor's office or whatever. So I was explaining to her that I had a tumor and that I just have to have another surgery. Everything is fine. So she's like, Dominique, that don't sound right. Like, what do you mean you have a tumor? You have cancer? I'm like, no, I don't have cancer. I have a tumor. So, matter of fact, he told me I had a malignant. Yes, that's what it's called, a malignant tumor. So he said, oh, you have a malignant tumor and we just have to go in and take out more tissue. So I explained that to my mother. She was like, no, you have to call him back and tell him to explain it to you exactly what does that mean. So she on the phone and she called my doctor. She was like, yes, I have my daughter here. She just explained to me that you told her that she had a tumor. Like, can you just give me more information about it? He's like, oh, it's a malignant tumor and yes, it is cancer, but it's a low-grade cancer and is a low risk of spreading. So we just want her to come back in so we could take away more breast tissue around to make sure that we have all of the cancer cells. So like my mother just had like this crazy look on her face, and she didn't have the phone on speaker. So like after she hung up with him, she's like, oh no, Dominique, like you had breast cancer. And I'm like, what? She was like, yes, I just spoke to him and he explained to me that it was cancer. It's a low-grade cancer. It's not a high risk that it would spread, but you have to go in this week for another surgery. The next available spot that he have open and just get the margin widened. So I went in to get another surgery. So I went in for another surgery at Mount Sinai Hospital again, and when I went in for the follow-up after that, he checked my scars, whatever, because he reopened the same scars. But the way he did my surgery, he did the incisions around my nipples, so I wouldn't have like visual scars. Because when I had my first lumpectomy, I have a scar. I can't remember. I think I have one right here. You see, on either side, there's one on the side of my breast, and it's also a scar in the middle of my breast. And I don't know, depending on if you can see them. I can't remember what bra I have on, but after I finish this video, either I'll put in pictures of the scars that's on the side of my breast. I won't put the one in my nipple because you really can't tell, and that would be like too graphic. So I would just try to see if I could put this picture of the scar that's on the side in the middle of my breast. So he did it because he's a breast surgeon. He tried to do a cosmetic surgery where I wouldn't have more scarring, because for my first surgery, I got a little bit of keloiding over my scar area, so he didn't want to give me any more keloids. Like, I don't have like they have like keloids that grow out, like it's just a keloid scarring over the incisions. So yeah, everything was okay. So he told me, like, since I was diagnosed, I actually had cancer, that every 6 months I would have to come in and do an exam and have ultrasounds of my breast done to make sure that my cancer doesn't come back. So for the past 8, because that happened when I was 20, so for the past 8, almost 9 years, I have been going to see a specialist twice a year, getting ultrasounds, and when I get new lumps, even though I have the fibrocystic breast condition, just to make sure it's not cancer, I have to get a biopsy of every lump done. So I recently switched over to a new doctor because I moved back to New York. So that doctor that I went to see at the end of, I believe, last year, not the end of last year, basically the end of last year, around like October, I started seeing this doctor, and I faxed him all of my medical records and my ultrasounds and everything that I recently took. New updated ultrasounds, but because the old hospital that I went to was not delayed, like they never sent my the films, he didn't have anything to compare it to, so he went and he did an ultrasound to compare it to the most recent one that I took, and he saw the scar and tissue, whatever, and to make sure that it was scar tissue, like I said, I had to get a biopsy done. And before the biopsy, I had my first mammogram this year because I guess my breast tissue is softer now that I'm older. I can actually get mammograms now. I got my first mammogram and I had got a biopsy, but because of the cysts in my breast aren't like liquid cysts, they're like the round rubbery lumps. They're kind of hard to penetrate. So instead of him like hammering at my breast, doing a biopsy for hours, like it was split into 2 sessions. So I went the first time and he put in, I believe, 2 titanium clips, and then after he put the clips in, I'm saying clamps and clips together. After he put the first 2 titanium clips in, I had to go in and have another mammogram done, and then I came back to have another biopsy. Like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, I came back and had another biopsy. He put 2 more clips in, titanium clips in, and I had another mammogram after that. And actually this month I was supposed to go in to get another breast exam done. So unlike my other doctor who I was only seeing every 6 months, which is twice a year, this doctor wants me to probably see him like every 4 months, 3 to 4 months. So that's like damn near 3-4 times a year. But he's a good doctor, so I really don't mind going. Yeah, so this year alone, I had 2 biopsies, 3 mammograms, and 4 titanium clips put in. And the purpose of the titanium clips are to just mark the area where the lumps are. So if my lumps become any bigger, they can measure from the point where they inserted the titanium clip and the film of the mammogram that they took when they inserted that clip in. So it's just like a marker, the titanium clips. Fortunately enough, my cancer was discovered early enough in the stages that I didn't have to have any radiation therapy or chemotherapy. Let me see. I'm not sure. I think I actually covered everything. And just in case you know anybody that's in like the Hartford, Connecticut area that's going through the same issue and they looking for a good surgeon, his name is Dr. Christie, and I'll leave his information in the bar below. If you're in the New York area, I go to a doctor. His name is Dr. Kehoe, and he works in Bay Ridge, and I'll leave his information in the info bar. And if you have any questions leave them in the comments box and I'll respond to them. Hopefully I touch base on everything concerning my journey with cancer. And if you need support and if you're going through a similar issue, like, feel free to hit me up because I'm here to always talk. Thank you guys. If you're still watching this video, because I just saw that it's 21 minutes long, if you're still watching this video, thank you for thank you for still rocking out and listening to the full story. And like I said, thanks for watching. Put health first. Make sure you do your own monthly breast exams, and if you feel the smallest lump, go to the doctor and get it checked out, because you never know. The earlier the detection, the better the results. And until next time, I'm Nikki D.